Sestak joins us at 8:40 to answer our inspector. WSBA.
Good morning. You're listening to York's Morning News on WSBA. I'm Jim Horn.
I'm Gary Sutton. WSBA News Time is 8:40, and we're joined this morning by Congressman Joe Sestak, who is running for the senatorial seat presently held by our inspector, who was on a few moments ago. Good morning, Congressman. How are you?
Good morning, Gary and Jim. Great to be back.
Always good to have you on. I don't know if you had a chance to hear what Senator Specter had to say this morning.
No, I didn't. I had more important things to do, but what's up?
Okay. Well, we feel like Godfather 3. We try to go on and do what you said before, is talk about the issues, but this whole controversy about you getting a job offered to you draws us back in. It pulls us back in, as Al Pacino would say. Every day at the White House right now, Jake Tapper, Major Garrett are asking Robert Gibbs about it. It doesn't look real pretty, as Robert Gibbs says, well, I forgot it today, or I don't have it today, or I don't have any more information on that today. Then we get a guy on this morning named Hans von Spakovsky, who was a former member of the Justice Department, who gives us something that the Justice Department members have from their criminal division that says that basically if there's any public official who offers a government-funded job or program to advance a partisan political agenda, specifically a primary election, they can be fined $10,000 and spend a year in jail. And so, we come back to the idea of what you have said about being offered a job, and you were asking the Larry Kane show, and you said, yes, I was, but not having said what it is causing quite a controversy right now and is making it unable for people to move on without, we won't say the elephant in the room, in this case the donkey in the room, trying to talk around that. So we need to come back to that this morning. Basically, Senator Specter, I said, are you calling Joe Sestak a liar? He said, well, you look for yourself. And he said the White House has denied it. We, of course, brought up the idea that what's going on is I just put it out to you every day, and that's looking suspicious. So I guess I want to ask you a question, Larry Kane style. Maybe this is the way to get at this, okay? At any time, did White House Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel or Deputy Chief of Staff Jim Messina have communications with you about this job?
Let me come back to 2 points you said.
Go ahead.
First was honesty.
Yeah.
The word liar was used.
Mm-hmm.
I was asked a direct question.
As I'm asking you now.
And I answered it honestly.
Okay.
As heaven forbid, I think a public servant should do. But
right.
Then I said no further comment, because to your second point, I don't think you're quite right, guys. People are not all caught up in this. People that I care about. Walk outside your radio station and ask the guy who's unemployed, does he care about this nonsense?
We do that every day.
No, he cares that he doesn't have a job because our inspector voted with George Bush's savage economic policies 2,000 times.
Listen,
he voted for exporting jobs overseas. So what I want
with all
to talk,
due
guys,
respect,
is talk about the
Congressman,
policies that affect the working family.
With all due respect, you're deflecting.
No,
okay?
I'm not.
Yes,
I
you are.
answered the question honestly,
okay.
and I said at the time, that's it.
And I'm asking you a question right now.
Because it doesn't have to do with the working family.
It does. It does have to do with working families who want honesty in government, and they want to make sure that if there's something pointed out here, that dishonesty is not there. And I can't think of a more important time in our nation's history right now when the Tea Party people are out there who don't trust government, when we've seen all kinds of deals made in this health care bill that look shady, and it's the reason the president's popularity polls have dropped down to 46% as of this morning. I can't think of a more important time for honesty, and I totally agree with you that honesty is what's important here, but you need to come out and say what happened here so we can move on and talk about the very issues that we happen to talk about with people on Main Street every day who do want to know an answer. Are there people that are doing corrupt things here to get jobs for other people, whether it's our inspector, Joe Sestak, or whoever? So, you might have answered the question to the best of your ability, or not even to the best of your ability, to your satisfaction, but it's not to the satisfaction of a lot of people out here who continue to ask us the answer to that question.
I answered a question with a yes, to be honest.
Did Rahm Emanuel or Jim Messina talk about a job with you?
I answered a question that nobody had asked for 7 months. We never put it out there.
Well, it's out now.
We never put it out there. So the guy asked me a question, and I answered honestly and said, no one further. And I said why.
But it's a crime.
And
it is a crime. Right here, we read it to you a moment ago. I'll read you the verse.
No,
it is a crime to offer you
I'm going to end up with only 1 minute of this 10-minute conversation.
That's fine. We could do that today. Hey, listen, we could do that today. You know us to be fair, and you know us to ask you questions. You know we disagree.
You usually give me half the time.
What's that?
You usually give me half the time.
Well, but I'm not going to let you deflect today. I'm coming.
Hold on, gentlemen. Wait a minute, please.
Yeah.
I answered a question honestly. Now, if you asked me what I spoke about with my wife this morning, I don't have to tell you that. What I do have to tell you, if I was asked something, that I do have to answer it honestly. And I did do that. Heavens forbid, as other people have said, most people wouldn't have they would have said no comment or anything. I answered the question honestly. But then I said what's most important, and the sole reason I got in. We have 11 million people that have to be soaked up from the unemployment roll before America gets going again. We have a broken health care system. We have kids that can't afford to go off to college because our inspector voted 4 times against Pell Grants. He voted against lower-income women who are pregnant being covered for health care and children who are poor not having health care 3 times for not covered by S-CHIP. I want to reverse those policies. I'm not going to permit anyone to deflect what really matters to the people outside your station. And those are policies that actually would help America going again. This is politics you're talking about, and I will focus solely on one thing, an honest answer and moving forward.
And you are smack in the middle of it. You are smack in the middle of the biggest political game that's played in the world, which is Congress.
Political. I'm not a politician. I'm a public servant.
You are a politician, and you have to run to be a public servant. You have to play a political game.
No, I had 31 years in the United States military. I don't have to change my stripes of character of what I believe in is what to be accountable for what people most
you
want.
Already
when
changed
my sailors
you went
were hurt,
being
and I
in the
focused on
military
them.
to being a congressman.
We didn't get into politics in the United States Navy when we were there, and I'm not. And that's what's wrong with Washington D.C. Our inspector switched the party because he ran away from Pat Toomey. He couldn't lose, and the Democratic establishment bought off on that deal. And what did it get them? He's 97th in seniority. He's despised by the Republicans. Democrats aren't enthused. We've lost something we could have had down there, and now all of a sudden the Democratically lost its ability to lead because they got into deal-making in politics. I'm standing up and saying I won't have that. I will lose my job readily over what's right for Pennsylvanian working families. And, guys, I mean that. I am in this for one thing. Pennsylvanians are hurting, and I want to reform the Senate with an honest, accountable senator who's willing to lose their job over what's right for them.
Then do exactly what we're asking you to do right now is honestly root out the people who are trying to buy you off. You mentioned bought off a moment ago. How about those who tried to buy you off with a job, which you said they did? Who was it? What was the job? That's all we're asking.
And what I responded when I was asked that question was yes. And I did say, look, understand something. I got into this race partly because I didn't like another deal being done by the Democratic establishment for a Republican who ran away from his own party.
So weren't you ashamed that your party
and I would never get out of this for a deal. If I ever got out of this, I would got out of it because it's the right thing to do. And that's all that matters, because what matters for me, what matters is what is happening in New York. How can I help people? I keep my office open 7 days a week. We've handled 4 times
we understand
the average congressional office.
No one is downing that.
Why don't we talk about health care? That matters a lot more to the people who don't have health care. The 1 million Pennsylvanians don't have health care.
Well, first of all, because your health care plan there is so fraught with deals and trying to get things by.
On that. Why doesn't our inspector debate me on it? He only wants to debate.
Well, that's up to you guys.
No. He only wants to debate in his hometown of Philadelphia on a Saturday night when the Mets and the Phillies are playing.
Frankly, as long as this question does not get answered, you're going to have a tough time talking about a whole lot more of these things out there, because people do want to know if someone tried to buy you off. You're talking about making Washington better. I laud you on that. I think that's wonderful, and I think you're the kind of person that could help to do that as well. I have no horse in this race, but here's the problem that we have. You have a bunch of people who just tried to buy you off, offering you a job. It is a crime. And the point is, if those kind of people are doing that, and they're in your party, by the way, how do you live with that, going out every day saying, well, I'm a Democrat, and I'm going to go to Washington. I'm going to work with the very same people who tried to buy me off if I get elected to this job?
Look, people like Arlen Specter who have been 30 years in Washington's establishment.
I'm talking about people like Rahm Emanuel and President Obama.
Have actually tried, because he can't, in this election, he can't say anything about my policies because I'm a Democrat and he's not. He's a Republican who claims to be a Democrat, so he can't come against me on policies. So his theory is, let's try to inflame something that's not an issue, that diverts attention, because, listen,
this is a crime.
He voted to put people, he voted for NAFTA. He actually believes in the flat tax. Can you believe it? Where multimillionaires would have their tax rate slashed in half, but if you earn $30,000 to $100,000, your taxes would increase. Those are the issues I want to talk about, because if Arlen Specter were ever, and he's not going to win in May, he's a flight risk. Because truly, if he still believes, as Pat Toomey does, in the flat tax, think how he'll harm America if he were to succeed.
Let me try a different way around this. If the answer to the question that Larry Kane asked you about, and I didn't hear the actual question, so
well, you should. Well, hey guys, no, don't you think it's fair that you at least listen to the interview before this? Well, that would have been more fair.
I did listen to the interview, and that was fair. So I listened to the whole thing.
Let me ask this: If Rahm,
hey, by the way, guys, you know I like it on the show with
Representative, if Rahm, the question that Gary asked you. Did Rahm Emanuel or Jim Messina contact you regarding a job? You said you answered the question honestly. So if that be the case, then which one was it? Was it Rahm Emanuel or was it Jim Messina that contacted you?
Say that again. He said he didn't say that.
No, Gary said that.
I'm asking you.
Gary said that. Okay, I thought you said Larry Kane.
No, Gary.
He asked me if someone had offered me a job.
Right.
I said yes, and I said, and I'll go no further because that's politics, and I'm in this for policy.
Okay.
So guess what, guys? I'm going to keep my word. Oh, my gosh, a public servant that's going to keep his word after answering a question honestly? I said I won't go further in it because it's, as you said, it's a political issue. And as I said, people don't care. They're unemployed. They want a job. They can't get health care. They want health care.
You know what people care about, though? With all due respect, Congressman, people care about this. They care about, and again, you're talking about your honesty, your integrity.
Washington cares and pundits care, but that person who is unemployed doesn't care. Yes, you're right.
Here's
they
what they
do
care
care
about.
that people are honest.
Okay,
and they
now,
do care that deal making isn't done.
That's
and
correct.
I said I won't be part of a deal.
And we have sat back and watched it.
And we have sat back and watched it.
We've sat back and watched that go on now with this health care bill ad nauseum. And we also have watched this week, as one of your fellow Congress people said, well, we're going to try to pass this through and not even vote on it. Okay, now, you tell me, in working in that kind of hypocrisy, where the numbers are going down for your party, the numbers are going down for your Congress, the numbers are going down for your president right now, and my president too, unfortunately, and the idea that somehow the American people also want this. They want honesty from their representatives because that's what they have to do in their lives every day. And you know what? You brought up, by saying yes, the fact that someone offered you something that is not only dishonest, it's also criminal. And so now, beyond a subpoena to you, I mean, we're simply asking for the name of somebody, and I'm not even asking right now. I said, did White House Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel have contact with you about the 2010 race for the U.S. Senate? Yes or no?
And here's what the people heard me say. I'm honest, and I'll never do a deal. Contrary to Arlen Specter, who did a deal and left his party to keep his job after 2,000 votes for George Bush. What they heard is what matters to them. I'm honest, and I don't get into politics for deals.
Speaking of
honesty, I'm on this, and I'm out there running for you, and that's all they care about.
Speaking of honesty,
that's all I care about.
Here was Arlen Specter a few minutes ago. We're going to play a piece that he said about what you're paying the people in your campaign. So this came up just a few minutes ago. Let's play this piece for you, and we'll, in fairness, get your reaction.
He was on MSNBC saying that I'm using words that make him look like a criminal. Ask him what he would call himself when he is conclusively shown to have violated a law which calls for a jail term.
That has to do with the minimum wage allegation.
Yeah, and he asked what I call myself. I call myself an honest, principled leader who would never run from his party because he couldn't keep his job. I call myself the exact opposite of Arlen Specter, who gave 2,000 votes to George Bush, voted for NAFTA and GATT, believes in a flat tax for multi-billionaires, would cut the wages in half, who actually voted to cut Medicare for $286 billion and voted for the largest education cut in the history of the nation. One-third education, once over 7 years. He actually voted to say a woman would have to prove she did not know she was discriminated against before she could sue for gender discrimination.
All right,
in
Representative,
pay.
let me
My point is, who do I call myself? I call myself an honest person
who will
not abide deals. I love the Navy, and this military, this nation was there when my daughter had a brain tumor, and I'm paying it back by trying to reform the Senate. Americans don't need reform. Those in Washington, D.C. who have been there too long and try to divert attention by language which is dishonest, disingenuous, and just the worst of politics, I'll never do that. I'm in this because I believe Pennsylvanians need a new leader, a new generation who will work for them, for the right policies. They can be all they can be.
If I can ask you one quick question about the substance of the senator's allegation, what is the pay scale for your employees?
My employees come and they flock to my campaign. And yes, we give them housing and health care, but they flock and work hard at sacrifice because they believe in the principle I do.
No,
gentlemen. They believe in the principles I do. They believe that Joe Inspector's time has come and gone, and that his votes has harmed Pennsylvania. My God, he voted with George Bush. He was co-chairman of President Nixon's Pennsylvania campaign as well as George Bush's, and they say enough. Your time is they come to volunteer and sacrifice and work hard.
We're going to have you on again, but here's a specific. This came from the Federal Election Commission reports that you pay your brother and two sisters that work for your campaign an average of $3,685 a month, and you pay the staffers not related to those people an average of just $1,461 a month, and that's below the region's livable wage scale, according to the release of the Federal Election Commission. How do you answer?
Gentlemen, you could go to the FEC filings and see that even when our inspector ran for president, he paid somebody $250 a month. Let's not go there. And look, you have to understand that these two lawyers, who my sister and the person who was an MBA, left their jobs because when I got out of the military, no one would have anything to do with me, of the politicians, because the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee told me not to get in the race to run against Kurt Weldon. Nobody would help me but my family. They left their jobs for 4 years to work with me and stay with me for 4 years. The lawyer jobs and MBAs, the first year not a cent. And they worked hard for me because you know what? The Democratic establishment, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee told me not to get in the race after 31 years in the military, and my family stood by me. And Pennsylvania is about families and belief in families. And let me tell you something. My family, I would live and die.
We understand that, and it all sounds
and why I'm fighting hard for Pennsylvania's working families? Because every Pennsylvanian's like me.
We'll do it again another time, but we're working out there, too, for the people as well. And
hey, guys, can you have me over for a family dinner sometime?
Anytime. We love having you on. Thanks so much, Congressman.
Hey, guys, remember, at the end of the day, it is about that guy and gal out in the street that needs a job.
At the end of the day, it's about honesty and not the crooks in Washington.
And you know I'm honest. And you know I'll do it up with no deal. And that's what I've done, contrary to Arlen.
Tell us who made it. Who tried to make it with you. That's all we need to know. Thank you, Congressman.
Thanks, Congressman. Have a great weekend.
Appreciate it. Congressman Joe Sestak, WSBA News Time, 8:58.